Welcome to OsteaO. That's with a capital TEA. We're osteo warriors in treatment and recent survivors. Spill the tea on all things osteosarcoma and cancer from the adolescent young adult patient perspective. Listen in on our honest and personal conversations about our osteo experiences, stories, and who knows what else. I mean, we tend to get off track. This podcast discusses all aspects of the young adult cancer experience in a conversational format. Audience discretion is advised, and don't forget, like and follow MIB agents on social media for all the intel and hot goss.
It's August. That means we're officially in gold bow season. Each year, MIB agents distribute beautiful gold bows to adorn mailboxes and front porches to create awareness during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Bows are available for a suggested $25 donation. You can purchase one directly on our website and sign up to be a bow agent volunteer and sell and promote the bows in your community. We hope you decide to join us.
We really hope you do. Those bows are so cute. It's so nice seeing them all around your neighborhood. It's just a reminder that everyone's got your back. And speaking of MIB traditions, here's our little tradition on osteo. What's the tea? No, like literally. So we're all going to go around and share what tea or beverage we're drinking. We're going to rate it, and then we're just going to tell you a little bit about ourselves. So my name is Mia Sandino, as many of you know. I am the co-host of osteo. I am 25. I live in LA with my mom and our zoo of 5 cats and 2 dogs. I just was accepted into Syracuse's part-time online cannabis studies certificate program. So I will be learning all about cannabis studies and how it relates to cancer and things like that. So hopefully that'll broaden my knowledge. So very excited about that. Today I am drinking elderberry and lemon immune stress tea. Because I just got back from a music festival and I don't want to be sick and was on 2 flights yesterday. And because our episode is going to be about what we do after good scans, we're going to be manifesting. So I'm drinking it out of my Manifest That Shit mug. And I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's now lukewarm because I made it a while ago. But yeah, Kara, what do you got?
Hi everyone, my name is Kara Skrubis. I'm MIB Agent's social media manager and junior advisory board manager. I was gonna say how long I've been with MIB, but I can't really remember. I think it's been like 4 years now that
It's
I've
been
been
40 years.
Crazy. I'm from Buffalo, New York. I graduated a year ago, which is crazy to say, and now I'm working. And I am drinking a cold beverage. I'm drinking a Coke because I actually DoorDashed this the other day because I was having like really weird, unexplained nausea, as you do time. So I was like, might as well treat myself. I just have to drink it in increments, or else like I don't know, I can't handle my caffeine. So
I can't either.
that's
I
my
get
tea.
We love DoorDash. My name is Sammy. I'm 21. I'm from Victorville, California. I right now live in Redlands, closer to where I was treated. I am the MIB Junior Advisory Board president and also the new OsteoWarrior podcast co-host. Very exciting, super excited to be here. I'm currently finishing my degree in biology. I have about a year and a half left. I am also starting up on volunteering at the hospital where I was treated with Child Life to work with like the little cancer patients. Very excited about that too. And right now I'm also drinking a cold beverage, but in a mug. I chose it's white cranberry peach juice. It's like 100 degrees where I'm at right now, so I really couldn't be drinking hot tea because it's already so hot. So, oh, and I rate it. I mean, I really like this juice. I would say a 9.
Oh, that's a high score.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got the juice.
Yeah, it's the juice.
It's all about that juice.
Yeah.
All right, so today we are going to be talking about something that always seems and sounds like it's a good thing, but sometimes can bring just as much stress as the opposite. We are going to be talking about clean scans and or good scans, whatever a good scan is to you. You know, some of us are at the point like me where I am unfortunately incurable. So we're just kind of ablating things, cryogenic ablation when things pop up. And just this past July, so last month, I had my first clear chest CT um, since since my cancer had metastasized to my lungs. So obviously that is my first good scan ever, essentially. I'm still, I still have my full body PET at the end of this month, and we'll see what that says. But just reading the words, no new evidence of metastatic disease, um, was absolutely crazy to me. And Jessie, who's been on the podcast, my girlfriend, um, she, she was so sweet. She made me cupcakes to congratulate me and all this stuff. And I was just shocked. Like because I really haven't had good ones before. It's like, wait, what do I do? Like I like, what, when you expect the worst all the time, which is how I personally cope with going into scans. Like I will be like, it's going to be a mess. It's everywhere. I won't super stress myself out, but if I go in with really low to no expectations, I find that I will handle something that's more neutral or good much easier. So it's like, okay, I need a couple of ablations per chance, maybe, but hey, it's not everywhere. I'll take it, so it's good is obviously a subjective term to all of us. So Kara, I'm going to start with you. How did you react to your first good scan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard for me to think of when they were like considered good. I think might have been good from the start, kind of. Um, from my initial diagnosis, my original tumor was in my left tibia. I had lung spots that were so tiny that they didn't know what it was. So it was kind of just a watch and wait. And it's forever since then been a watch and wait. They've shown up on every single scan. Sometimes it looks like they grow, and other times it looks like they stay the same. So it's kind of been like a weird understanding of like maybe these aren't anything, maybe they are. I think 2 scans ago they look like they grew. So I was supposed to move my 3-month scans to 6 months, and we made the decision to keep it at 3 months. So that was kind of when I was like worried for the first time. And then this time, my most recent scans, they didn't look any different. So we moved to 6 months, which I think has been a little bit difficult for me just because I know that I don't want to be doing scans often because of the radiation, but it's just hard to move that timeline of not knowing even further. Um,
Absolutely.
but it's definitely a mixture of emotions between like I'm happy, but also I tend to feel like a lot of guilt around
Mhm.
clean/good scans. A lot of people ask me like how were scans and want to know, and I'm kind of reluctant to tell them and reluctant to celebrate, not just because I'm expecting the worst, but more of like I feel a sense of guilt in the community of like my tumor genetic makeup was like I was just lucky to have great makeup and not have it spread anywhere yet. So it's something that like I wish I could post about and celebrate more, but it feels better when I don't and when I kind of just keep
Yeah.
it to myself.
No, I can definitely see how that happens because I feel the same way. I mean, it's like,
Mhm.
I feel like scans are a double-edged sword no matter what, because you need to know. You need to know what the results are. You need to know so your doctors can manage your treatment, so you can preserve your quality and quantity of life as much as possible. And there are the radiation risks. It's never fun, building up that anxiety. It can drive you crazy, and obviously it impacts everyone in your, surrounding circle. And when you are like so ingrained in the osteosarcoma community, like the three of us are, it can be hard to be like, oh, you had scans and they sucked. I'm so sorry. Mine were great, by the way. It's like you feel you don't. It's like we're all kind of in the trenches together. I'm not one really for the battle terminology when it comes to osteosarcoma. I know that there are a few ways to really get around it. Patient sounds too clinical, but it's really just depends on the person, I guess, and what you prefer. But we really are all to quote High School Musical, we're all in this together. And, it's when you see people that you care about, not having good scans, you're like, oh, well, mine was good. And now I feel terrible about it because, it creates almost this distance of, and you don't know how much you want to share. You don't know who you want to share that information with. But at the same time, you don't want to leave people out because exclusion never feels good. People usually don't like being the last to know good news or bad news. So I feel like it's when it's anything other than just same old, um, it becomes a okay, well, how do I relay this information? What is the way that is healthiest for me, but also what is the healthiest way for others to receive it? At the end of the day, we aren't responsible for other people's emotions. All we can do is try to, be kind and deliver things in a kind way. But I totally get it that it's difficult. I mean, Sammy, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I agree with what you said about we're all in the trenches together. I feel like every cancer survivor probably has the same sentiment around scans. Like we want to celebrate, but also like there's that guilt that like you said, like we're so embedded in the community. Like we see when things aren't always looking up for people. So there's a lot of guilt behind like my scans are clear, but yours aren't. So definitely try to keep it just to my close circle most of the time.
Yeah.
I remember I don't think I mentioned this in my intro, but I'm like a year and 3 months out, NED, thankfully, like finished treatment May of last year. I just had scans. They were good, thankfully. I remember my first good scans post treatment. It was super nerve-wracking. I kept telling myself it'll probably feel better as time goes on, but unfortunately, I feel like I'm in the same headspace when it comes to scans. Like there's always that worry that it's going to come back. And my story is a little bit similar to Kara's. Like I'm very lucky that so far I have not had it spread anywhere, which I know it's like pretty common. So I'm kind of living in that like stable period for now, but it's always in the back of my mind that it's very possible for it to come back.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Kind of that waiting for the other shoe to drop feeling, I feel like is
Hmm.
the best way to explain it. And our entire worlds from the second we're diagnosed and even beforehand from the second there's a potential that a tumor is there and you find that out. Um, it's just always watch and wait. And those are, obviously there's no other way to go around it. It's not like you can have scans every day. No person is made for that amount of radiation. And obviously it is a fear in a lot of people because it can happen. It's rare, but secondary cancers can form from the different types of radiation from scans. Thankfully, I've never had radiation on its own. That's the one thing I haven't had done to me. I've had the surgeries, I've had the ablations, I've had chemo, I've had immunotherapy, I've had IVIG, I've had all these crazy immunosuppressive treatments and other things like that. Radiation is the one thing I haven't had. Um, but it's just it's always a worry, but at the same time, you need to know. I mean, scans are just the messengers, so I feel like managing anxiety is never easy, but you obviously, there's a very common phrase, you don't want to shoot the messenger, like don't shoot the messenger. Um, so, I kind of go into scans with that mentality now, but when it comes out good, I don't know what to do with myself because
Hmm.
when you're constantly expecting and planning for the worst, because that is constantly what has happened, at least in my case.
Hmm.
Nothing, I've had 3 instances where I've been, anywhere between weeks and hours away from death, and somehow I've cheated it. I think it's because I have so many cats. I think that they're slowly like giving me some of their lives. I think that's the secret. Just get cats. But anyway, it's just very nerve-wracking, and I don't know. It's anxiety will always be there, even if your scans are good. And I feel like people are like, even when you say you're NED for X amount of years, it doesn't matter how far out you are, you're always going to be scared that it's going to come back. So even though you have those good scans, there's still that anxiety that precedes it. And you're just like, ah. And then when it's good, it's like, well, now what do I do with this nervous energy? Because now I'm supposed to celebrate, but oh my God, now I feel bad because my friend just had a bad scan. Blah, 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 blah. And it's just such a complex emotion that I feel like isn't talked about enough in our circles. And so that's why we really wanted to do this episode today. And I'm so happy that we're doing it with you
Yeah.
guys. So I mean, do you like Kara and Sammy, you both have been NED for a while. Do you have a hard time staying optimistic? Like when does your optimism kind of sway? When like do you have a hard time feeling stable in your stableness, if that makes sense?
I can say for sure that I have a hard time sometimes staying optimistic, especially I think just any little ache and pain in my body, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm assuming the worst. Or the scans that I just had, I was really nervous because I'd been having like a cough that was like unexplained. Like they still haven't told me what it is. They don't know what it is. But I thought that it was like lung mets or something. Like it was
Yeah.
just 'cause that's what they had warned me about. And it's just tough to not let your mind go there. And leading up to the scans is the worst. And then even in the scans, like in the CT, I had a really bad experience this last time. They did like the iodine contrast. Because I think we should talk about it, like the bad scans.
Yes.
I had a really bad reaction to the contrast this time. I actually ended up peeing
Oh,
myself and throwing up
oh,
simultaneously.
oh
Yeah, you can
no.
imagine, like you're in the little CT too, right? Like I got nauseous. I kind of have to like whip myself out of there and just
Yeah.
on the floor. And it was probably the contrast with the anxiety. And so then I had that scan. I had to wait, I think it was about like a week. I just recently had my appointment where they gave me good news, thankfully. But like that feeling never leaves. And I think what people who don't have or didn't have not had cancer don't realize is that we can be super far out from like finishing treatment or like, it can be years and stuff, but like that feeling never leaves. Like you never feel safe in your body because if it betrayed you once, like what's to say that it's not going to happen again? And I think it's important to try to stay optimistic, and I really do try to, but it's unrealistic to think that you're not going to have those doubts in the back of your mind, regardless of where you're at.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just such a weird feeling. I mean, Kara, I know you felt it too, and even you've been posting so many incredible TikToks, and I always love your TikTok because you're an icon.
Yeah.
And you posted such great videos about like your hair growth and all of that, and I think it's such, it's a reclaiming of what the cancer has taken away. It's less about the image, it's more, about the freedom that comes along with it. Um, how how do you feel making those posts? Do you like because I know that there's a celebration, like, because your hair looks great. We all know that. You've always had such beautiful hair, and we're so happy that it's there and that it's like getting a haircut. It's like, wait, I'm getting it cut to be made shorter. Like it's like I
Literally.
just had mine cut a few weeks ago, and I'm like, wait, it's not falling. Like
Kara
it's
just had her cut too. Yeah. You
I
guys
just
both
got
have
like
fresh
I just got
haircuts.
a big chop. Like I got it. It was as long as it's been since being bald. And I was gonna like trim it because I was like, I need to keep my long hair, but then I couldn't justify like paying like $70 for a haircut just to have like a
Mhm.
little trim. So I was like, I'll just chop it. And it was just like it was emotional because I was like,
yeah.
oh, like that's my hair. But I mean like I feel like my experience on TikTok has just been so like, I don't know, all over the place just because like I acknowledge a lot of what happened on TikTok and I went like semi-viral over COVID and I pretty much know that I went viral because it was a shock factor that I was bald and that I had one leg and that I was sick. Um and I got a lot of views. Like I think my top video has around like 40 million views and it was like just being sick and people wanted to send me their well wishes, but as soon as I post something with hair and a prosthetic, it doesn't do as well. And I understand that and I know to not let it get to me, but sometimes it does, just that like not that I want the attention, but that people like truly were more there for me when I wasn't doing well. And I think it's hard because I want to be optimistic and I want to be like a cancer survivor and like not have cancer anymore. But it kind of feels like when people with addictions, like some people like some addicts say that they're still addicted to something, even being like 20 years clean from it, just because they feel like that's always going to be a part of them. And I don't want to say that I'm still a cancer patient, because technically, like, I don't have cancer, but it still feels like I'll have cancer for the rest of my life, because like I feel like cancer is just the accumulation of everything that comes along
Yeah.
with it. Like, I feel like you
Mhm.
should still call it cancer when you have like, debilitating nausea and like
Yeah.
aches and pains and all the stuff that comes along with it. I feel like that's just part of it. But it's been interesting on TikTok. I posted a video not too long ago of me ringing a bell, or ringing the bell of like end of treatment, and those comments were brutal. I mean, that one hit like, a couple million views, and a lot of people were like, I'm so proud of you for ringing the bell. And then other people were, taking it out on me, being like, why'd you get to ring the bell? My mom didn't. And I was like, whoa,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's hard, because I think something that I've always wished that people could understand is I didn't choose to be, cured. I didn't choose to be free of cancer. I didn't choose to have clean scans. And same goes for, the other way. Like, people who have cancer, they didn't choose to have cancer, they didn't choose to have bad scans. It's just kind of like fate. So, when people say, "Oh, good job, amazing, like you did great," it's partly like, mindset and everything, but it's completely out of our control, so something that I
Mhm.
think about a lot.
Yeah, I think that's what's so difficult about scans and just about the cancer experience in general is once you enter the cancer verse, as my mom and I like to call it, um, you don't really get to leave. Um, and once you're sucked in, it's almost like I wouldn't go as far as the upside down, but it's still your life, but it's completely different and it will never be the same again.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like that's what a lot of people don't realize is, even if you're just, I remember being in the hospital and being envious of the people who were, what people call one and done, where it's they just have their surgery, they go through the MAP protocol and they're good.
Mhm.
There are obviously different examples of that. It depends on where you're being treated and things like that. But it's hard to see when you're someone who's, like I was told almost 2 years ago now that I was incurable. And, that's still kind of where I am. I have personally decided that um, unless my cancer really takes a turn for the worse and it would severely impact my quality of life, not quantity, quality. It's key to make that distinction, in my opinion. Um, I don't want to go through chemo again. And that I feel like is not always a popular opinion. Um, but at the end of the day, I am 25. I was saying to my friends in Seattle when I was there at the end of last month that if you had told me that, back on my 21st birthday, which is the last time that many of us were together for my sorority, I was like, if you told me, back then that I would still be alive and be sitting at this speakeasy in Seattle with 7 other of my sorority sisters who I haven't seen, some of them in years. And I was like, I would not have believed you. Like I would have put money on it. Like I would have put all of my money, on the other side of that bet.
Mhm.
And so it's weird having that survivor's guilt. It's like um especially when you have friends who have passed on, which I know we all do. Even our MIB friends who have passed on, and it's really difficult, um getting good news and then it's suddenly being prayer Sunday. Like it's a little bit difficult, seeing all those names, and you kind of get that feeling of I would swap myself for them in any situation. It's like Steve Rogers jumping on that grenade at at the beginning of the first Captain
Mhm.
America. Um, it's like you kind of want to take the fall for everybody because better than anyone how much it sucks. We
Mhm.
all have our own experiences with osteosarcoma. That's the thing about cancer is it doesn't matter if you have the same type as somebody else. We all have our own genetic makeup, and we are the ones who grow our own cancer, homegrown. So sweet. And so each cancer case is unique. So there are no cancers that are the same. What worked for Kara it wouldn't work for me. What worked for me probably won't work for Sammy. They're just different. things. And, I have a very rare mutation. I have the PIK3CA mutation, which makes up less than 2% of all osteosarcoma cases. So if you do the math on that, 400 to 800 cases a year in the US, that's 8 to 16 people per year that are diagnosed with the same mutation that I have. So it's very, very rare. The only blessing in disguise is that it's, for me at least, is slow growing. So that's how they've been able to kind of treat me without actual systemic treatment. But it's still, I feel incredibly lucky. Like, my joke is I'm the luckiest unlucky person in the world, or the unluckiest luckiest person in the world, because I live 9 miles from UCLA, clean water, clean food, roof over my head, all that jazz. You really appreciate the smaller things, but it's so crazy that this, what is now routine medical procedure for us, becomes a source of so much stress and anxiety, even if the news is good. So it's like it's almost like there's no winning. There's never any winning when it comes to cancer. Even when you survive, there's still going to be that fear. You're never going to lose that fear. The people who care about you are never going to lose that fear. Maybe in the back of their heads, but it's still going to be there, in the back of their minds. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Anyway, that was my little osteosarcoma sucks vent. Um, but as we all know, so it's so important, just to talk about survivor's guilt as a whole. And I don't know if you guys want to give examples of when it impacted you the most, or just some examples
I
of
have a
when you've
really
had
good
her.
example, I think.
Mm,
Well, I don't think it was great, but I was at a different conference. It wasn't through MIB, it was through a different organization. I was just invited just to share my story, and um it was like one of the first couple of nights, and we were sitting at a table eating dinner, and I was seated next to a woman who shall not and will not be named. Um and there was some point at the night where the woman and I were talking, and they expressed to me that it was very difficult to speak to me and to see me there because their own child had passed from cancer, and just like my presence was hard for them. And I was, gosh, like 20, 21 at the time. Um, and you know, I think that would have been a time where it could have been a time where I was like hurt by them saying that, but I more found it not, I don't know. I didn't feel bad about it because I knew that that person didn't understand how badly I wished it was me over their child.
yeah.
And they won't ever understand that. And I also don't expect them to understand that because they're going through their own grief. But it was it was interesting for me to like experience that with a parent of an angel, just because like I don't ever expect them to know how that feels,
Yeah.
but I think it's something that a lot of survivors do feel, is that, they wish it was them instead of their friend, or, someone else. And it's something that I think about a lot. I mean, obviously, I don't wish that I was dead, but if it could have saved someone else, I probably would have, And it's such a hard line that I go across, because then I have days where I'm so glad that I'm, here. And it's it's always like a mental toe between being happy and then being sad about it, and but also like trying to understand, and I've been working on this a lot lately, that like it's okay to feel sad about being a survivor and having that guilt, and that that's something completely valid, and I just have to figure out how to, tread carefully around the wording of that to not,
Mhm.
offend anyone, or, you know,
I
yeah.
think a lot of people who don't have cancer don't think about how often we have to, like how you saying, like watch our wording or tiptoe around certain things. And like we feel bad. Trust
Yeah.
me, we feel bad. Like, yeah, that feeling never goes away. Every time I hear that someone's scans come back not so great, like I wish it was me. And like Kara was saying, like not saying that we wish we were dead or anything, but like I so far have only gone through that once. and I see, like, I can think specifically of one person who's been through it for a really long time, and it really does, like, I wish it was me. Like, I wish I was getting the bad news instead of her, because why does it happen so often or so much to one person? Like, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of guilt around cancer. And
Yeah.
like Youre was saying that you've gotten like negative remarks on your TikTok and people say like backhanded things. I think it's really not anyone's place. Like from outside looking in, they don't see how much it affects us on a daily basis and how like we'll look fine, but like mentally we're struggling to grapple with the fact that we're still here while other people aren't. And it's a lot to carry. And I would hope that people would be more gracious with us. Like they think that since we're far out from like our treatment or, you know, been NED for this long, like the farther out we get, like the better it feels. But I think people need to understand that time doesn't always heal everything. And sometimes it just feels a little bit heavier.
Absolutely. I mean, cancer is a very loaded word. I mean, except for the astrological sign, which my phone, it's really funny. I don't know if y'all's Instagram algorithm or TikTok algorithm does this, but it's like if you watch a lot of stuff or have a lot of stuff that like talks about cancer, and then suddenly you get a bunch of like astrological cancer TikToks or Instagrams. I don't know if you guys have had that happen yet, but I think it's really funny.
Yeah, or I'll have people tell me like, "Oh, I'm a Cancer," and like I will hear them right, and I'm like, "You had it or you are it? Like, there's a difference." Like, and they're like, "No, no, no," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, I'm on Cancer Talk for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Which
it's
cancer
definitely
talk?
Cancer Talk. Yeah, I
capital C
get
or lower
I get like, I mean, the good to part about like social media too is like I've connected with so many people through there. Like it's not always negative. Like sometimes I'll get like a follow from someone and I go to their bio, I see they have a little ribbon and like immediately follow back. And then there's like a
Yeah.
kinship there because we just know that wherever you are in your experience, like the cancer doesn't leave you. It's never done with us. We have to go on with our lives best we can. And I think it's just so nice that through social media we're able to connect with other people because I'm pretty sure, oh, I know for sure we're not the only ones who have like these feelings.
Oh, absolutely not. And, that's a big reason on why Osteo was started, because it's there's articles and things like that out there and posts, and but is there really an ongoing conversation that has a constant, um where people can feel seen and can feel heard? And I feel like that was what got us all started with Osteo. And I think it's a really beautiful thing that we have to build this sense of community. And just to backtrack for a second, along with the survivor's guilt, I don't know if you all feel this way. I am a chronic people pleaser and was even before I was diagnosed. And I feel like it only got worse after my diagnosis. And the reason is cancer to most people, unless you're already in the cancer verse, is this unknown mega bummer buzzkill. Um, and so I feel like I have to overcompensate for the fact that I have cancer. Like, hey, I have cancer. And they're like, oh, but you look great. Like, you must be doing really well. And then I have to be like, actually, I'm incurable. It's just really slow moving. um, so it's kind of hard having that guilt too. And I feel like with every good scan, knowing that I am incurable, I'm like, okay, but does this really, like, what does this mean? Like, even and like, Jamie, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, he's my half brother. He asked me, he was like, well, how many scans do you need for you to officially be NED? And he's my half brother. How can I tell him that that's never going to be the case potentially? That more likely than not, that's not going to be how I end up. And the whole reason I'm in the Syracuse part-time online program for cannabis studies, and that I'm going for a certificate and not, an undergraduate degree, um, is because transferring credits is always a nightmare, especially between quarter and semester schools. But also because I don't know if I'm guaranteed those 4 years. I have enough credits to be a junior in college, but I don't even know if I have 2 years. Right now, sure, I just had a great scan, but I count all the things that I'm grateful for on a daily basis. That is how I stay grounded. But at the end of the day, I know that all of that can change so quickly because I've seen it happen so many times. Um, one of my closest friends, Erin, who I always wanted to bring on the podcast. She's amazing. She unfortunately passed away in February. She's a very, very close friend of mine. She had rhabdomyosarcoma, and she went from having the best scan of her life to 3 weeks later, it exploding everywhere. And she was gone within 6 months. And so having seeing that change so quickly, it just breaks your heart. And I remember being, at her funeral, and my entire medical team was there. We had the same team, and seeing how hard it impacted them. And that's when I realized that tell your providers the good things that happen to you. I know that they're busy. They might not even answer you, but when I was in Vegas with Jasmine, who has been on this podcast before, um, she is one of my friends from UCLA. She has osteo. She has had it for, I think, just about 6 months less than me, so about 5.5 years. She is an above knee amputee. She is incredible. I can't remember which episode she was on, but she was on an episode with us, and it was great. Would love to have her back again. Um, what was I gonna say about Jasmine? um, it's hard when oh no, the good news, right. Tell your oncologists and your team the good news. We were in Vegas and we'd had a couple of drinks in us, and both of us were 21 at the time, don't worry. Over 21 actually. But we were in Vegas and we'd had a few drinks, and um Living on a Prayer started playing in the bar, and we shot a quick 10-second video of us singing to it, just like a stupid selfie video. We sent it to our oncologist, and he saved it. And he says that he watches it at least once a month to remember why he keeps doing this, because there are the days where he loses patients he cares about, because our teams care about every patient, every family. um, and I know that you become desensitized to it over time, but every loss is a loss to them too. And so we have a right to share that good news, even if it makes us feel guilty, as people pleasers. We only want to share the good news, and then feel bad that if we shared something good, then suddenly something else pops up, then you have to retell everyone that something bad popped up, and it's just this vicious cycle of what is going on. We never know. And so when you have those good moments, celebrate them, be there. Like, I share them with your team. At least that is a group that you can go to that will be happy to see your success no matter what.
I feel like
Um,
it's like such a good point too, because that's like the one time that I feel more gratitude than guilt is when I like share good news and everything with my team. I don't talk to my surgeon much at all anymore. I mean, they were only there to cut off my leg and that was it. But I still try to send them the stuff that I'm doing because I don't know her other patients, but I assume that she has patients that aren't here anymore. And I assume that she hears more of that rather than follow up on what her patients that are living are doing with their lives. And, I don't necessarily feel a lot of guilt when it comes to sharing, the good news with like my healthcare team, just because they know like they're experiencing the bad and the good. So they already know. And, they also understand it from like a medical point that I didn't do anything to make myself better, like I
mhm.
didn't I didn't, you know, manifest hard enough or anything to like completely change my scans. They know medicine and they know that it's just like the way that it worked out for me. So it feels really good. And it's also like a small way of giving back to them too, is just like
Absolutely.
showing them that you're like doing well, and being thankful for their hard work and stuff. And yeah, it's a good point.
It is, yeah. I'm really close with my team. I think when I just saw them, like I was updating them in my life, and like I don't share too much like with other people about like specific things, but with them, like I feel super comfortable because like they saw me at my worst and they helped me. And like when I tell them stuff and they said they're happy for me or proud of me, like it feels so genuine, so sincere. Like it's like they saw it all. And like how you said, like from a medical perspective, they understand that like we didn't want this, like it's not something that it's not a path that we chose, it's a path that we were put on. we're doing our best afterwards. And it's just really nice. Like I love my team so much. Like I hug them every single time I see them. So nice. Like I'm 21, I still get lollipops and stickers, guys. Like yeah, and that's another thing too. Like we never outgrow lollipops and stickers. Like if you're
We
gonna
never
poke me,
do.
I would like to walk out with a sticker on my chest. Like, please.
Those stickers are badges of honor right there. I mean, that
Yeah.
is bigger than a blue check mark. That is bigger than
Oh, for sure.
than
Yeah.
anything I can consider, to be completely honest. But it's having those good moments with your team. I feel like having a supportive team is so important. I as I've talked about a few times on the podcast, my favorite class that I ever took at the University of Washington was the psychology of happiness, and that course impacted my life a lot. Not just by teaching me different ways to kind of control what you can't control in your life to generate a more positive baseline well-being, um, but also how important social support is. And I remember at my 25th birthday, I'm not going to name names, but someone from my team was here and we took a shot together, and this person was kind of on my front lines when my liver was failing. So I went up to them, super happy that they were able to make it to the party, and I said, "Will you please do a shot with me?" And they said, "After seeing everything with your liver, it would be an honor to do a shot with you." So we did too. And uh, don't worry, no one was driving, and obviously everyone in this story was over 21. It was my 25th birthday, so it's just so important, just to have those moments, to share those moments, because I remember when that same person told me that on our family Thanksgiving celebration, I was allowed to have one glass of wine, but if I had more than that, it would be a risk to my liver. And at that point, I didn't know that I was weeks away from liver failure. Thankfully, it never got to that point, especially because I was told that due to how my cancer had been progressing, that I would not be eligible for a transplant. Um, so, it was really scary. So to go from seeing me weeks away from death to multiple years later, me celebrating with espresso martinis and shots and delicious food and just a huge party with a bunch of balloons, being there and sharing that with a member of my team was honestly one of the highlights, just as much as sharing it with all my loved ones, because they see so much darkness and so much doom and gloom in their everyday, that sharing those positive moments not only feels good for you, but it feels extra good for them.
Mhm. It's
So
really nice. I already invited my whole team to my wedding. I keep telling them they have to be there, and I don't have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or anything, but I just know that they'll be there when the time comes, because just like how our family and our friends love us, like I know they also grow to love us and they'll never forget us.
yeah, I would totally ask my oncologist and my IR to both walk me down the aisle. Like I would
Mhm.
at this
Absolutely.
point.
They have to be there. Now I'm putting on my list, I need to take a shot with someone from my team. So
Oh, that's definitely a bucket list item for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean it's just crazy, and it's so crazy that it's like you have to manage not only your expectations, especially with scans and with your cancer, but everybody else's. And like I feel like it's so hard, like with family, it's like obviously we can have these positive moments with a team, but there are obviously always going to be family members who say the wrong thing, or take it extra hard, and you might not want to tell them right away, but you feel guilty for not telling you. Like how do you guys like manage your loved ones' expectations of your scans, not just for yourself, but um like how like do you tailor it to other people?
I would say, yeah. I mean, Mom, if you're listening, you might not like this, but like I always put like her needs over mine, which or may not be the healthiest thing, but it ultimately is what makes me feel better in the end. Like if she wants to talk about it, then I'll talk about it. If she doesn't want to talk about it, then I won't talk about it. And like I like doing things that make her feel comfortable. So it was like a big debate for me and our team if we were going to move to 3 months or 6 months. And, she wanted me to make the decision because I'm 23 and I should be making the decision. But I really wanted to make the decision based around her because for me, I'm going to end up the way that I'm going to end up. But if it's saving her a few months or if she'd rather wait, then I would just prefer her to be more comfortable because I know I'm going to have to deal with it either way. And I know that she's a person that also likes to know. So, um, you know, I I try to tailor towards her just because she's been there every step of the way. And, she's not the cancer patient, but sometimes I feel like she is a cancer patient as well because she's gone through everything with me
Oh,
as well. So
absolutely.
she's also like feeling the exact same feelings I'm feeling, even if she doesn't completely understand. But I also don't understand how she's feeling either because
Yeah.
to me, like I'm her child and I don't know how it is to have your child go through that versus yourself. I feel like there's like some sense of control when it's yourself versus like if it's your child, like you can't do anything at that point. Like it's the person that you're supposed to be protecting, and at that point you can't protect them anymore. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really had any like negative experiences with family members, but I feel like for me, like my immediate family understands scans and like my feelings around it and understands a little bit more of what survivor's guilt is versus like my friends and the people who like really just like think that when you're done, so I think that's a little bit easier for me.
Yeah.
No, I'm the same. I try to really take into consideration, specifically my mom. Like my mom and my sister
Me
were the
too.
ones who were there for me the whole entire time. I really try to take into consideration their feelings too, because as much as I went through it, like I saw it, like they went through it too. Maybe not in the same capacity, but it must be tough, like being so close to someone that's not doing super well. I'm sure they also feel a sense of guilt, like I think all of our parents would agree that they wish it was them instead of us. Like I've heard that so many times.
Mhm.
And I think surrounding scans too, like expectations, obviously everyone's always like fingers crossed that like they come out well, but I'm also,
Yeah.
I go into the scans hoping that I don't disappoint them. And I don't know if disappoint is the right word, but that's kind of
Yeah.
like the feeling. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like if my body lets me down, it's letting them down, because if my
Yeah.
life is changed by this again, like it's their lives that are affected by it as well. Like it's just, it snowballs. It goes beyond just us. Like our immediate support system also feels it. So
Exactly.
definitely it's difficult. I mean, I am very grateful that like I'm 21. I like my mom to go into my appointments with me. Like I like walk into like my appointments and my mommy's right there behind me. But she'll step out and let me talk to my doctors and stuff, and they'll tell me news and things, and then I get to choose how to relay it back to her, which is like I've kind of created that like boundary, I guess. I just feel more comfortable if it comes from me. So
Yeah.
like whether it's good or bad, because I remember when I was first diagnosed, it was actually my sister who was in the room with me. And like, I really wish she wasn't, just because the first thing I did when they told me that they found something that looks malignant on my tumor, like I looked over and the look on her face, like I'll never forget it. Like it's tough. So you have to
Yeah.
like really think about how it also affects those in your closest circle. So it's just like a lot on our shoulders too, because like on top of thinking about how we're going to deal with good or bad news, we also have to think about how our loved ones are going to deal with that same exact news once we relay it to them.
Exactly. And it's almost, it's almost like we're Atlas, it's like we're holding our entire cancer world on our shoulders. And I mean, after thoracotomies, you really want to hold something on your back that long? Come on. No, but seriously, I mean, a phrase that my therapist taught me that has really been helpful, and she works with a lot of cystic fibrosis and hemonc patients, um, is it's me, but it's not me. And so, yes, it's my body. I am not consciously growing these tumors. I am not consciously hurting my family. I am not consciously bringing sorrow to the people that I care about. And, not to be cheesy, and I feel like I've been referencing them a lot. Maybe it's just because I saw Deadpool and Wolverine, but to quote Vision from Marvel, you know, what is love, or what is grief if not love persevering, or what is love without grief persevering? It's one of the two. Um, what is grief if not love persevering, I believe is the quote. And you know, it's just so hard because you know these people love you unconditionally, but the conditions suck. And, you know, it's like it's just hard feeling like a bummer, especially because people have always told me I'm a very bubbly person and I'm a very happy person. And you know, I was told by the head of the counselors and trainings that even though I was great with the kids, he didn't think I'd make a good counselor because I was too nice and not intimidating enough. And
I feel
That
like the
counselor
people
is what they
pleasing
want.
just the people pleasing just like, I don't know, like escalates. Like it's just like now more so like I'm more aware of like other people, you know, like before myself, which isn't always the best thing, but I feel like it's kind of something we subconsciously do. But yeah, we
yeah,
kind of just have to deal with it.
like I would do anything and everything for my mom, and she knows that. And you know, it's she has fibromyalgia now, and that's of course brought on by stress. So now there's that additional guilt of not only will I cause her mental anguish if, I have something bad happen, it's going to cause her physical pain for potentially days or weeks. And
Mhm.
I'm talking full body aches here. And she's still in the early stages of being diagnosed with it, so she's still figuring it out. And I just want the best for her. So I'm so happy that I'm in a stable place now for her sake. I mean, it's like I am almost the last person on the list that I check off with how am I feeling about the scan. It's how am I feeling about how everyone else in my world is feeling. And I feel like as cancer patients, we become self-sacrificing in many ways because self-sacrificing, as the word, as we've been saying throughout this whole episode, is we would sacrifice ourselves for the people that we care about, and we would easily trade places with someone who had a bad scan if it means that they would be okay, because we know how much it impacts them and how much it impacts the people who care about them. And it's just brutal. And at the end of the day, all we have is each other. And our loved ones are still going to stick by us. And if they don't because we have a bad scan, then did they really love you? Probably not.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, I think it's just, I just want to tell everyone at home, that it's okay to be upset if you have a good scan, that you're not weird. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling bad about having a good scan. We are three long haulers here who have been through the ringer, and you can feel however you want to feel about your scan. And because it is your scan and yours alone, and even if it impacts others, it's yours. Um,
Mhm.
so I feel like that's just a good message to put out. And just kind of like as a last question for you both, what would you tell someone, um what would you tell someone who just got a good scan and came to you and said, I don't know how to feel about this, what should I do? What advice would you give?
Oh, I would say find your people. It can be tough to find your people. I mean, luckily we've found our people through MIB, but find your people who you can like talk to about that because, there might be some people that don't understand and also don't want to hear that you're feeling, indifferent or some sort of way about having a good scan. But there are people out there that will understand what that feels like, and being able to like find your people, find your community, be able to talk to someone who understands that can be like really impactful, but also validating and knowing that like that feeling is perfectly normal and perfectly fine.
Mhm. It's possible to balance like the guilt and then like still being like a little happy, you know, like what Kara was saying, like there's people in my life who like good or bad news, like I know I can go to them and they're gonna understand. And then unfortunately there's some people who maybe I wouldn't go to because again, like the guilt, you know. But I would say that what you're feeling is normal. You're not alone. I promise, like basically everyone in the cancer community would probably agree that that guilt is something that kind of just comes with cancer, and it's something that doesn't really go away. But people, there's still people who are proud of you, and there's still people who are happy for you, and again, you just need to find those people and keep them close, because those are going to be the people who kind of lift you up when you're feeling down, when that guilt is kind of like really heavy.
Absolutely.
And whether the scans are good or bad, like life can still be beautiful afterwards. Like we've seen it, we've lived it. Like it's, like there's a really good community, thankfully, like the osteo community, and beyond that, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of good communities and stuff where people would say the same thing. So it's just, yeah, it's normal. It's normal, and you're not alone.
Yeah, I feel like my last piece of advice would be the future is scary. It's scary whether or not you have cancer. It's extra scary, in my opinion, when you do, because you never know when the sand in your hourglass is going to run out. You know, sometimes there are people adding extra sand. Sometimes that, you know, that little hole in the middle of the hourglass opens up a little bit more, and it leaks out faster. You know, it's not a linear, you know, kind of thing. Cancer is never linear. Healing is never linear. My biggest piece of advice is something that I only just realized. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning, I just got into this program, and I tried to apply to 4-year programs 3 different times since I have been diagnosed and have, you know, metastasized to my lungs. And all 3 times I had some form of, not relapse because I still obviously was in treatment, but a recurrence of some kind, something aggressive, you know, so like something where I needed surgery. So like anything as simple as just new lung mets to full septic shock. Like those are 2 of the examples of the 3 times I've tried to go back to school and have had to rein it back. And so my piece of advice is, have a healthy fear of the future, but don't limit yourself, because you don't know how much time you have and you don't want regrets. And this isn't a YOLO thing. Like, don't just take shots from a bottle out of the sunroof of a limo. Like, I'm not talking about that. Like, don't do something, or do, I don't know, but just don't say
In
I told.
moderation, yeah.
Yeah, in moderation. Don't do anything super risky, but put yourself out there. It's something that took me 6 years to be able to be comfortable with, and now I'm in this program, and it's led me to this crazy career. And I was pre-med for so long, and so this is a way for me to help people in some way, shape, or form who have cancer or who have debilitating diseases, and just to help them get rid of chronic pain and things like that through something that's a little more fun, a little more taboo, depending on what state you're in. But just have fun is really the biggest thing I can say, and just do you, be you. At the end of the day, cancer doesn't define us, even though it feels like we're branded by it. And it will never leave us, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that it is our entire life and our entire genetic makeup. There are still trillions of other cells in our body who are doing the right thing. So do it for them.
Yeah. Take care of yourself while simultaneously allowing yourself to live and experience things, you know? And get a cat, like Mia was saying.
Get a cat.
Those are the 3
Just get a
things,
cat.
basically. Yeah. This whole podcast was just us trying to convince everyone to get cats. So
Yeah, Kara, you need to get a cat.
I don't have a cat, but now you're kind of making me think I need one.
I mean, they're great.
What are allergies?
Oh, allergies. You can get a
Tell your
hairless
body to
cat.
stop. Thank you for tuning in to OsteoWarrior, as always, the Osteosarcoma podcast. Be sure to follow MIB Agents on social media at the links in our description for all of the intel and hot gossip about our lives. Special thank you to Kara and Sammy, my new co-hosts, for joining me today. And as always, we are your hosts, Mia and Sammy, and
that's the tea.
Thank you all.